Welcome to Eventful Endeavors, secrets to crafting the perfect celebration. If you're planning an event and looking for useful tips from industry experts, you're in the right place. So get ready to take some notes and we'll dive right in. This is Eventful Endeavors.
All right, we are back with another episode of Eventful Endeavors. Today we've done a lot of stuff recently on the west coast of the country, but now we're moving to another state. We're going to Texas to talk about some weddings there. Today we have Mackenzie Stokx, the owner and creative mind behind Stokx Weddings. First of all, thank you for being here.
Of course, I'm excited.
So we always kind of get started the same way. So talk to me about your journey, like how you ended up getting into wedding planning, what started that? Where'd it come from?
Yeah, so I always say it's kind of your basic wedding planning origin story, honestly. I planned my own wedding and I was like, hey, I'm really not too bad at this. So I decided to kind of dive into it. It was never on my radar, never anything I thought that I would do. But I graduated and decided that I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. So I got engaged right after graduation, like literally 2 days after graduation. And I was supposed to be studying to get my teaching certification, and that didn't happen. I got so wrapped up in wedding planning, and so one thing led to another, and this is where I am now.
So now you started doing it for other people.
Yes,
So
exactly.
when was all that? When did you get married yourself?
I got married in April 2021, and so I launched my
2021.
business literally like I want to say 2 or 3 months after that. I kind of just full steam ahead. So I've been in it for
Great,
about two and a
great.
half years now.
That's interesting because are we talking about a lot of people who kind of started pre-COVID and then went through the whole COVID
Yeah,
mayhem? So it's interesting. So you kind of started at the tail end of that, like,
yeah.
you
I got
know,
in at a very good
kind
time.
of like, yeah, you didn't have to actually go through the mayhem of doing the
No,
whole COVID thing.
no.
So now, do you mostly just do weddings around the Dallas area? Or will you take on anything? Is it travel based? I mean, where are you kind of at?
I pretty much tell people that wherever someone's willing to pay me to go, I'll do it. I
Yeah,
haven't
sure.
had any out of state weddings yet. I've done a couple down in Austin, and those are all really fun, something new, everything like that. But I will literally go anywhere.
Cool. So do you do mostly like full planning with people, or is it kind of partial planning, a little bit of both? Just tell me a little bit about kind of your business, what you mostly offer.
Yeah, so it's pretty split. I do my three main packages are, of course, full planning, start to finish. That's obviously my favorite. I have the most, creative
Yeah.
freedom. I get to really do my job when I have those kinds of clients. But I also do partial planning. That kind of starts like 6 months out, so it's a little bit more hands off. I still
Sure.
help, along the way, but they have a bulk done at that point. And then I do coordination as well. So kind of like an event management, it starts like 2 months out.
Yeah. Something a little bit closer. Just mostly
Mhm.
like executing the thing, making sure it
Yes.
goes off
Yeah.
well. And you like doing the full planning more? Is that that's more fun for you?
My goal in the next couple of years is really to like kind of weed out coordination and just kind
Sure.
of focus on full planning. It's definitely a lot more it's more fun, I feel like on my part because coordination is more just like logistics, like finalizations, that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, let me ask you this, because you just recently got married, and you also are just recently launched this business a few years back. So, like, what's your number one piece of advice for couples that are newly engaged, like just starting down this road? What would you say, like, number one rule? Do this first, or like, here's my piece of advice.
Oh yeah. When it comes to a brand new engaged couple, one, I tell people to just like give themselves a couple weeks. Don't start any wedding planning. Don't talk to people about weddings. Don't do anything. Just like enjoy being engaged. I feel like a lot of people jump into it so quickly and they kind of lose the whole enjoyment of actually being engaged to the love of your life. So that's first and foremost.
Right.
Definitely take a second. But once you really dive into wedding planning, I tell people number one, first thing you have to do is establish your budget and establish your guest count. Those are the two biggest things. Don't book a venue, don't even book a wedding planner half the time until you kind of really have an idea of those two things, because that's going to determine really every other aspect of your wedding.
That that comes up all the time when I talk to people. But this is one question I always kind of get, I'm intrigued by with budget, because when I got married, I was like, this is my budget. My budget for my wedding is $10,000, and then quickly learned that
Oh, yeah.
okay, that's not realistic at all. So like when you say like get your budget, like is that where you'd say like consult somebody who knows what they're talking about, so we so we can tell you what a realistic budget is?
Yeah, honestly, that's the hardest part, I feel like, with couples, is that of course you have a number in mind that you're like, yeah, I could spend this on a
Mhm.
wedding, or my parents could spend this on a wedding, like, and that feels comfortable. And then you get into things and realize, wow, I can book like my venue and maybe some snacks for that budget. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So it's
everybody
definitely
gets one potato chip.
yeah. No, literally. And so it's definitely one of those things that I do have a lot of couples that come to me when they want full service planning, and they don't really have a budget idea in mind. They might say, "Hey, this is how much we're kind of looking to spend." And then I go ahead and we talk through everything that they're kind of wanting. And then tell them kind of, okay, this is reasonable, or you might need to have some flexibility, or, make some compromises
Right.
here, that kind of thing. So it's definitely, I always recommend talking to somebody, at least in the wedding industry, preferably a wedding planner that has a much better idea of like industry averages and market value and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, because realistically, and what I've learned too is like you can do it for any kind of price. It's just
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't have a vision and then have you know what I mean? You can't be like, oh, I only want to spend this, but I want to do all this crazy stuff. Then it's like,
Oh, yeah.
no, you can't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Speaking of kind of like crazy stuff. So, I've noticed, weddings recently, especially in like the last 5 years, like there's been a lot of like, maybe it's because of TikTok, Instagram, whatever it might be, this kind of uptick in like really unique and different things. So like, what
Yeah.
are you seeing? Like, what are some of the new trends that are going on like nowadays? Like, what are you seeing? I mean, especially in Texas, because I don't do a lot of weddings out there. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, it might be different than like where I'm at.
Yeah. There are a lot of wedding trends right now. I feel like TikTok is everybody's worst enemy, because you can just
Sure.
go down the rabbit hole when it comes to ideas, and you're like, "Oh, I never knew I needed to have this, 10-layer champagne tower, but now I need it." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's definitely one of
Hmm.
those things that I think some trends are great and I love them a lot. And then there are some that I'm just kind of like, unless that's really important to you, you really don't need it. But I have seen a couple really fun things that people do. My favorite is when clients add something really unique that people just haven't seen before. I think it's really fun. I actually just had a wedding back in October, and we decided to rent a 6-hole mini golf course for cocktail hour. So
Yeah.
so fun. Guests could just play mini golf. It was there throughout the evening, all that kind of stuff. And little fun things like that are memorable for people. And so I think any kind of interactive, activity, food station, any kind of like fun late night snack ideas, people just go crazy for. And I'm here for all of those. I think they're so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. I saw a mini golf thing I did a corporate event recently, and it
Mhm.
was, it was the same kind of thing they had at like their cocktail hour, but nobody played. I was kind of upset. I was like, why is nobody playing this?
Oh,
I wanted to play, you know?
bummer.
But yeah, I've seen that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
Aside from that, like while we're at it, like, is there anything else that you've seen that's just super unique other than the golf thing? Like at any kind of event, and we'll get into it. I know you do more than just weddings, but is
Yeah.
there like, anything else off the top of your head that you're like, that was super, really, really cool that I've never seen before?
That's a really good question. I feel like a lot of the times there's little new aspects that I'm seeing with weddings all the time. Um, I feel like one of the biggest cool things is really like interactive food stations for people. I feel like
Mhm.
most of the time, cocktail hour, what you kind of think of is like past hors d'oeuvres, right? Somebody walking around with a tray, which is great, but
Yeah.
things that are really fun. I just saw one recently, and charcuterie is such a big thing right now. Like everybody wants charcuterie boards or everybody wants like charcuterie cups, things like that. But there's so much waste that comes along with having a big spread, right? Like guests are picking at it. It's kind of a little gross when you really, really think about it. And so
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, and there was this thing I just saw and I was like, this is a great idea. And it was like a little cart and they would make individual charcuterie boards. So you could actually pick the little things that you wanted and they'd make your little board right there and you'd have it to walk around with and eat off of and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like
That's kind
fun,
of cool.
yeah, fun little unique things like that are just like a little different. I feel like adds a really fun aspect to weddings, especially if something like guest entertainment is, really important to you. But something like that's really fun.
Yeah.
Um, I also think this isn't necessarily unique, but I'm seeing it so much lately and I love it so much. It's outfit changes. So having your
Yeah.
yeah, having your wedding dress or whatever it may be and then changing into like a full glam sparkly jumpsuit or something like that. Like just
Sure.
in a moment. I love those and I think that's definitely a fun thing.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of that too. A lot of like separate, especially shoe changes. I've seen like 7 different
Oh
types of
yeah,
shoes come out throughout the night,
that's a
as
big
well as full outfits.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, because so let's could backtrack a little bit because I know I mentioned that you also do not just weddings, right? You do pretty much anything like corporate
Yeah.
stuff, parties, birthday parties, whatever.
I'll do corporate events, I'll do birthday parties, I'll do baby showers, any kind of events.
Yeah.
I love kind of spreading it out and it keeps it interesting.
Are they a little bit? Are weddings probably the more complex of all the events?
Mm, honestly, it kind of depends.
Really?
Really go either way. I feel like for me, at least at this point, weddings kind of have a pretty standard formula. I know that that kind of takes away some of like the excitement of planning a wedding, but
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll kind of go through the same process for the most part with each client. And so, of course, there's going to be some fun, creative aspects of it and everything like that. But at the end of the day, it really is kind of the client's decision what they want. And so it keeps it pretty easy because you just kind of are receptive to what they're saying. But when you get like a
Right.
corporate event or you get a big, awesome birthday party with, 200 people and it's going to be crazy, a lot of times the client,
Hmm.
especially corporate, they don't care at all. They're like, you plan this, here's the money, go for it, like have fun with
Right.
it. And so with that, it can be a little bit more complex because you're really just you're not working off of somebody really. It's just like kind of on you and potentially your team to kind of figure out that kind of stuff. So
Right.
logistically, sometimes there can be a lot more layers to things like that.
Yeah, but you also get a little bit more creative freedom there, where it's like, here, just take this money and go throw a party.
It's so
Yeah.
yeah,
And
for
that's
sure.
where, I mean, but that's also like, I mean, with all kinds of events, though, I have noticed, like, even in the corporate world and the wedding world, like, what we were talking about, like, it does seem like everybody's leaning towards this, like, experience idea. Like,
Oh yeah,
we want
totally.
everybody to be like something just unique, like, you're involved in some way.
Mhm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, everything's just really unique nowadays with that kind of
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah. It's so fun.
Yeah.
I love those kinds of things. It makes it less like cookie cutter, right? It gives it a little bit
Right.
more pizzazz to it, and those are my
Yeah.
favorite kinds of events.
Yeah, at my wedding, I had a donkey bringing beer to people.
Mhm.
So
Oh, we
yeah,
love those.
it was like
Yes.
the
Yeah,
beer
those are
barrel was there, and I was just like, I'm gonna do this. It's gonna be
yeah,
awesome. And
yeah,
people
those
still
are so
talk about it. I was like, yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, those are great.
So talking about moving all away from like kind of the fun, unique stuff. This is my favorite question I ask people because I've
Okay.
heard some wild stories.
Mhm.
What's the big like for you? Like the big, let's keep it at weddings maybe, but like the big no, like something people just should not do, something that's always cringy, or
Mm,
like, oh please don't tell me this couple wants to do this because it never works and it's always uncomfortable.
oh, yeah, for me, that would be open mic. Letting Like if
Sure.
it's toasts or speeches or something and they just like let people come up and talk, it's kind of gotten to the point now
Mhm.
where if a client says, "Oh, I kind of want to do this," I say it's a hard no. I'm like
Yeah.
we can't. I promise you, save that. If you want to do something like that, do that at the rehearsal dinner. Let people go crazy
Yeah.
at the rehearsal dinner, say whatever they need to say, all of that kind of stuff. But no, wedding day, 2, maybe 3 or 4 people max, and make sure that they know that they're giving a toast and under 5 minutes each.
Yeah, I as the person who usually has to MC that and have the microphone and do
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
I've only done it once and I
Mhm.
swore I would never do it again. It
No,
was a disaster.
it's a
I,
mess.
I told a bride once, yeah, I told a bride once, I said, I want you to really think. I want you to think about everybody who's coming. Everybody. Not
Mhm.
just the ones you're really close with. All the
Yeah,
people you kind of know. Think
yeah.
about that for a sec. And then think about how they'll be liquored up and might just
Yeah.
want to say a quick thing. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
going to be comfortable. It's not going to be good,
No,
you know?
not. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like a domino effect. Like, once one person gets up there, everybody's like, "Okay, maybe I can say something." And it goes,
Yeah.
"Go on. I will never. I just can't do it."
Aside from like, that, which I agree with that. I think that's a horrible idea. Nobody should ever do it.
Mm.
But what's, at any kind of event, what's the like craziest thing you've ever seen go down? Like,
Oh,
an
man.
actual story of somebody, like, it could be related to them. It could be something completely different where like something went wrong, and even if the bride never knew about it, like, but something went wrong and it was just a disaster.
Oh, man. Well, thankfully, I think I've kinda lucked out on that front where I
Good.
haven't had any kind of, like, complete disaster happen or anything like that,
Okay.
but I would say a moment where I was in kind of full panic mode was it was like 5 a.m. the day of a wedding, and I woke up. Normally on wedding days, I get up really early because I'm, kind of stressed and a little anxious for the
Sure.
day and stuff. So naturally, I just wake up pretty early. And thank God I woke up early this day because I had gotten an email at like, I want to say 2 or 3 in the morning from the officiant. And he was pretty much just like, I have COVID. I can't come. Sorry. And I was like, what do you mean?
Not like a, hey, I know somebody who can do this. I will
Yeah,
help you. Like,
he gave me no referrals, no suggestions, anything like that. And might I add, this was
hmm,
like a peak wedding date too. So it was an October Saturday.
sure.
So I am like
Yeah.
full panic mode. I don't want to tell the bride. Like I'm like, I need to figure this out before she even finds out. So for like the next 4 or 5 hours, from like literally 5 a.m. to maybe 9 a.m., I was calling, I was DMing, I was texting, emailing, like all these people, all this stuff like that. And thankfully, one of my now favorite companies that I use for officiants, because he really came in
They
clutch.
saved your life.
Yeah, saved my
They
life.
saved the day.
Yes. So I
Yeah.
found an officiant before the bride had even woken up that day. So that was more of like a could have been a disaster, that kind of thing. But thankfully, besides
Yep.
that kind of stuff, I haven't had anything too crazy. But
But that's
yeah.
why you get a planner, because then you won't
Oh,
know, you
no,
know?
exactly. That's
If
what
you
I've
don't have one, you're getting that call at 5 in the morning as the bride. And that's the worst way to start out what should be the best day of your
oh,
life.
yeah, 100%.
Like,
100%. Oh, actually,
yeah.
now that I'm thinking of something, one thing did actually
You got
happen.
one?
Yes, and it was also about an officiant,
Okay.
and
Sure.
he showed up. I'm not even kidding. I seriously almost had a heart attack. Thankfully, the bride she didn't care. She was so relaxed. She was like, I don't care if we start on time. I
Right.
don't care if any of this happens. But the officiant showed up an hour late. An hour late. He was
Ooh.
not dressed and ready to go. He like strolls in really casually. And this is like a family friend, I think the situation was. So like they didn't even give me his contact information, which this was back when I kind of first started. So now I know I
Sure.
have the contact information, email and phone number,
Right.
name of every single person that's involved. But um Nobody could get a hold of him, nothing like that. He shows up an hour late, not dressed, just casually like walks in. And I'm like, "Are you the officiant?" And he's like, "Yep." And I'm like, "Oh my God, go get dressed right now. Like, you're killing me. This is absolutely ridiculous."
Did he
It
know he was late?
Yeah, he didn't care. He was
He
just
didn't
like,
know he.
"Oh," like it was like her uncle or something like that, and he was like, "Oh, she'll be fine." And I'm like, "We have people literally waiting in the chapel for like the past hour. People are going like getting antsy. People are like, "What's going on?" Yeah, that one was pretty bad. That one was pretty bad.
Not great luck with officiants.
No. I
Yeah,
did not at first, I did
that's
not have good luck with officiants. So,
yeah.
it happened.
But then you get your people, right? And now you have your people that you trust. And
Yes.
it's like, I
Now
know these people are
thankfully
going to show up on time.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that, like, you guys see a lot of beer burros and stuff out in Texas, right? Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah,
So
I've them.
it's interesting because I thought, like, our company, we do weddings all over the country, and I specialize in Southern California, and it's big out here.
Yeah. Really?
I didn't really know if it was popular anywhere else. Yeah. Is there anything else that you think, like, oh, like Texas does this a lot, or like, but
Hmm.
like I don't see it a lot of other places? Just because I'm curious. If you can't think of anything, it's fine. But I don't know. Like, there's, I
That's
feel
pretty
like Texas is
interesting.
such a unique state. It's a
Yeah.
unique state, so I feel like there might be something that's like, I mean, is there a lot of barbecue catering? I mean, something
That's what
that's like just specific to like Texas.
that's the only thing I could think of was there are
Yeah.
a lot of people that love barbecue. That's a big one.
Mm,
But besides
probably get a
that,
lot of that.
yeah, barbecue a lot of the times. But I feel like
A lot of
besides
big family style meals.
oh yeah, I've been having a lot of family style meals actually lately for weddings, and I think
Yeah.
they're so fun. I really really like them. I hadn't
Oh
really
yeah.
had any clients with them before, but they're great and people really like it. So,
Yeah, I think, I just went to a wedding. I don't do a lot of weddings that have family style, but I just went to one. My friend got
mhm.
married to his family style, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
It was quick, number
Mhm.
one, because
Yes.
as you probably know, like, for me, like, almost every wedding, as the guy who's DJing, like, the one thing that I always tell people, if we get delayed, it's usually because of dinner.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
like we can get delayed if it's like, I see people's timelines sometimes, and they're trying to get 200 people through a buffet in 35 minutes, and I'm like,
Oh,
that's just not realistic.
no. It would
It's
never
not going to
happen.
happen. But I
You know.
love the family style is just like, drop it on the plates, everybody eat, and we're good.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Logistically, I love it
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I think more people should do that. So you heard it here. Family style dinners are awesome.
Yes.
Good way to
Yes.
do it. So yeah. So tell me anything else. I mean, anything else about your service? So do you do, like, how many events can you take on in a given year? Like, are you out there working every weekend? Do you have people on your team that help you out? Like, is it just you, like, doing it all? Like, tell me a little bit more about your company.
Yeah, so I definitely really lean into the quality over quantity when it comes to events.
Sure.
I'll take a max of 3 events a month. I have realized I've
Okay.
had a couple months where peak wedding season, I can't turn them down, that kind of thing, and I regret it after. I I
Sure.
feel like you're dying a little bit at the end of those months, but max I'll take 2024 weddings. Events, I'm pretty flexible. I'll just kind of events to me, even though there can be a lot that goes into them, um, it doesn't really take me very long to plan them necessarily, just because I do have so much creative freedom. So I'm not having to like confer with somebody else about certain things. So I'm pretty flexible with how many events I take. I think this year I have in all, I think I have like 20, I want to say like 26-ish events and weddings
Yeah.
right now. And that's pretty comfortable for me. I do have girls on
Right.
my team, but I am the only planner as of right now.
Well, so you're doing,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, you're doing a lot of it. I like
Yeah.
that. That's
Yes.
fun.
Yeah.
So, before we kind of wrap everything up, I mean, is there anything else you kind of want to mention? Anything else, any other pieces of advice, anything else you think is really important that you kind of want to, talk about, let people know, there's so much that goes into these kind of events. And it's hard to cover everything, especially in like a 20 to 30 minute conversation. But is there anything that you're really passionate about that you really are like, just anything you want to mention?
Yeah, actually, I feel like it's really important. I know that I said that it's really important to establish budget and guest count at the very beginning, right?
Yeah.
But I kind of want to touch on guest count a little bit. And
Yeah.
I really want people to realize that larger guest counts are not ideal. It's gonna affect everything, right? An extra person is gonna be an extra meal, more drinks, another centerpiece, another table, another place setting, another linen, whatever it may be. And so when it comes to your budget, if you have a $80,000 budget, it's gonna be a completely different wedding if you're inviting 100 people versus 250, right? It's going to feel completely different. You're going to get a completely different wedding. And I think it's important to realize that you don't have to invite every single person that you've ever met. It's at the end of the day, I tell people that if you wouldn't be okay spending 5 minutes on your wedding day talking to them, then you probably shouldn't invite them to your wedding.
Yeah. I love that you said that, actually, and I haven't really had that conversation with anybody yet on this podcast, but I've seen this a lot, and I even struggled with it when I planned mine, but we did two things. We said no kids, no plus ones.
That'll do it. That's good.
I was like, I don't need your boyfriend or girlfriend. I've never met them. I don't want to meet people on my wedding day. I don't want to. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to pay for the stranger to eat. If it's your husband or wife, fine. I know them then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's
completely
fine. But like, even my sister, like I told her, I'm like, no, you're not bringing your boyfriend. I don't even know the guy. You just started dating. Come and have fun. You don't need to bring him.
No, exactly. And one of the things that I tell people too, to kind of, start to wean down your guest list, is another really good question to ask yourself is, one, have I talked to this person in the last 5 years? And two, would I invite this person over to my house for dinner? Because that's essentially what you're doing. You're planning a party and you're feeding them and providing them with drinks and entertainment. If you wouldn't have that person over on a Friday night, then why would you invite them to the most important day of your life? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And if you have less people, that budget can stretch farther. You can make it more special for those people that are there, as opposed to being like, oh man, we now have all these mouths to feed and the bar package is going to go up because we have so many guests. Now it's too chaotic.
No, completely.
I condone it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask you this? Because this is something it kind of goes along the same thing, but I'm genuinely curious how you would approach this, because, a lot of times I find brides and grooms specifically are inviting people under the pressure of their parents, especially if mom or dad aren't paying for portions of the wedding. And what I can speak for what I did, which was, me and my wife, my now wife, when we did take money from a parent, but we did it, and we said, we will take this, but we want it to be completely our wedding. We don't want any say in it. You know what I mean? So if you're okay with that, then we'll take this. If you're not, then please keep it. You know what I mean? Like, so I guess my question then is like, how would you broach that kind of subject, or what would you recommend? Because I do think I see a lot of weddings where I can tell, like, mom or dad has just put so much say into this, and you can tell the bride or groom doesn't even want that,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, and trust me, I would say probably 50% of my weddings deal with this. It's incredibly common because, a good majority of the time, if you're between the ages of, 20 and 27, maybe under 30, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Your parents, a lot of the times, I mean, it's a lot of tradition, especially, I feel like, I don't know how it is everywhere else, but Texas, big time Texas, most of the time the parents are paying. And I think that it's a really common issue that people deal with because, the parents a lot of times kind of are trying to live through their kids a little bit, like they're like, well, I need to invite my, 20 tennis friends because I can't
Yeah.
not invite them, that kind of thing. And when I got married, I love my parents to death and I appreciate them more than for paying for my wedding.
Sure.
But that was a big thing, is that they gave me a budget and, I'm planning this wedding accordingly, but they add an extra 50 people of all their friends, that completely changes how I allocate that budget.
Yeah.
And it kind of falls onto me a lot of the times to talk with the parents and kind of remind them that this wedding day isn't about them, right? It's going to be
Right.
And so it's definitely one of those things where a lot of the times I kind of chime in. The bride or the groom will come to me and they'll be like, hey, like this is an issue and I don't really know how to handle it. And a lot of the times I kind of have to be the bad guy and talk with the parents to kind of be like, hey, like this is why I think you shouldn't invite your 30 other friends, that kind of thing. And sadly, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes parents just they don't really care. They're like, well, they can't afford this wedding without us, so it is what it is. But a lot of times parents just kind of need to be sat down and kind of reminded of why they're even paying for this wedding in the first place. And that at the end of the day, they just want their kids to be happy, right? So
yeah,
they're kind of reminded that what they're doing is causing their kids stress and kind of taking away from the wedding that they want. A lot of the times parents will kind of take a step back and realize that they should kind of take a step back in that planning aspect too.
Yeah, it's just having that conversation open, and talking to them, because that's why I did it up front, because I knew I was like, I don't want this to be a thing. I don't want it's not your party. I don't want your friends there that I kind of know.
Yes. No.
Yeah. So, I know it's also, everybody's in a different situation, different financial situations, different parents, different people, different personalities. So it's not always going to work. But I do think it's worth at least having that conversation early in the process if you're a bride and groom.
Absolutely.
So that down the road you can be like, remember, we talked about this.
Like, this conversation. Yeah.
We already said we weren't going to do this. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something, both those things, your guest count and how that all kind of goes down, is that's important. And it's a big thing that people need to, look at when they're planning this stuff, especially early in the process. So, anything else you want to mention? Before we wrap it all up here, I think we covered a lot of fun stuff. Obviously, like I said, there's a million things that go into this, but
I think
we will, we'll obviously, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think we covered it. I could talk for hours, so it's probably good to get me quiet.
Yeah. No, you're good. And that's the thing, is it's, when you do it so much, you're passionate about it, you know how it works. But the best way, we'll link to all of your stuff, your socials and all that stuff, so people know where to find you.
Awesome.
Should they want to do this. But yeah, the biggest, we always come back to big piece of advice, get yourself a planner that knows what they're doing. So, don't do it alone, because it's like, it won't end well. It won't go well.
No.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for doing this. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk again soon. All right.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks, Mackenzie.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Eventful Endeavors, Secrets to Crafting the Perfect Celebration. We hope to have left you with some actionable ideas for your own event. If you like the show, please subscribe and definitely leave us a review. We read every comment. So until next time, happy planning, and see you soon on Eventful Endeavors.